My name is Grose. I'm the academic director here at the Schwarzenegger Institute. I've really enjoyed hearing a lot from the last few panels, and I wanted to do a little bit of analysis about what happened in 2018. I got a call from a reporter right after the election who asked me, well, the Democrats won, especially in Texas. This reporter was really interested in Texas. Democrats won in some districts that were gerrymandered to help Republicans. And so this reporter was curious, does it matter anymore? Is this still an issue? So it made me think, I want to go take a look. What happened in the states where there are commissions? What happened in states where there weren't commissions? Did the Democratic wave that was hitting in 2018 hit equally across the rest of all the districts and states? And the Democrats obviously did well in 2018, but I want to see, are these redistricting commissions associated with increasing electoral responsiveness? So the answer is yes. I'm going to show you a little bit of data about this, but partisan shifts in the electorate in 2018 were reflected much better in districts that were drawn by commissions. So if Democrats gained a few percentage points in the vote statewide, they gained seats statewide. If they did in some of the states without commissions, Democrats gained votes. They did not always gain seats in 2018. And this isn't just a Democratic story, right? 2018 happened to be a Democratic year, but if we went back to a year like 94, 2010, where Republicans were also having a wave, we would see potentially the inverse, with Republicans having more responsiveness. And then another thing, I'm not going to talk about as much, but I just want to mention, I've also done some work through the Schwarzenegger Institute where I did a field experiment where constituents who are Republican, Independent, and Democrat reached out to elected officials. In commission states like California, the elected officials were more likely to respond to people who did not share their political party in comparison to states that did not have commissions. All right, so no doubt it was a wave election. Democrats picked up 40 seats. The votes in the 50 states, 45 states, the aggregate vote for Democrats increased in 45 of them. It was a strong Democratic year. And so what we might expect, if the maps are relatively fair, is in those 45 states where Democrats gained, excluding the states that only have one US House district, we might see Democrats also gaining. And then when it's a Republican year, we might see Republicans gaining seats as well when there's an increase in Republican votes. And so it was not evenly distributed across US House districts. In Iowa, this is a state that has a nonpartisan districting plan. In 2016, Republicans won a majority of the vote in the state. They won 3 of the 4 districts. Iowa's districting plan is drawn by nonpartisan staff who try to consider neutral criteria. In 2018, the Democrats came back. They won a majority of the vote in Iowa. They picked up 3 of 4 seats. 2 incumbents lost in Iowa. So there's electoral responsiveness in this state with neutral commissions. In California, as we've talked about and we'll be hearing about on the next panel, Democrats did very well, as many of you know. In 2016, they won a large majority of the vote in the state as a whole. They won 39 of 53 seats. In 2018, they increased their vote more than 2016 in an already Democratic state and picked up 7 more seats. So again, responsiveness. The voters speak in 2018. They support Democrats in 2018. Democrats pick up support. If in 2 years that wave goes out and Republicans come back, we'll see potentially in states like California, some of those Democratic gains could turn into Republican gains, depending on who the candidates are. So on average, if we look at the state vote for Democrats in states that have some form of commission or neutral criteria broadly defined, on average, Democrats won about 60% of the US House vote and about 67% of the seats. So the swing towards the Democrats was more responsive in the commission states in a wave year like 2018. In other states that do not have commissions, we see some different impacts. For example, Wisconsin, which has already come up earlier from Andrew Claster's presentation, in 2016, the Democrats won a majority of the vote. Republicans won 5 of 8 seats. They won 52% of the vote. And then 2 years later, Democrats actually won 54% of the vote in Wisconsin, gained more, and nothing changed. Same thing, Republicans hold 5 of the 8 seats. This is one of the most extreme cases, but there's no wave hitting Wisconsin. Or the wave's hitting Wisconsin, but the seawall is so high that the wave is not going anywhere. But it's not just a Democratic thing. It's actually a or excuse me, it's not just a Republican thing, it's also a Democratic thing. Maryland is one of the best cases of this, where we did not see any responsiveness in 2018 either. There's a Democratic legislature drew a Democratic gerrymander in Maryland. In 2016, Democrats did win a majority of the vote in the state, but the Democrats won 7 of the 8 seats, which was fairly disproportionate to the vote. In 2018, Democrats gained more, but there's no space left because there's already a Democratic gerrymander for there to be responsiveness and a swing to the Democrats, even though the Democrats did better in Maryland in 2018. So same result 2016, same result 2018, different support for the Democrats and the Republicans in those elections. So on average, and again, this is the statewide vote for Democrats in states that don't have redistricting commissions or some sort of other neutral criteria that are similar, Democrats won 51% of the House vote on average. In those states, got 48% of the seats, right? And so the responsiveness in these states was not there at the same level. And I was kind of surprised when I looked at this number, but it's that it was 48%. I thought it might be 50, 51, but the 51% of the votes for Democrats in states without redistricting commissions and similar, 48% of the House seats go to Democrats. So there's really not responsiveness going on in these states. The big punchline, commission states led to a 7 percentage point increase in the vote in Democratic seats relative to the vote for Democrats in this wave election. 3 percentage point fewer away from the party that got more votes, the Democrats in 2018. And so if there were commissions and say, as the governor said, 50%, 67%, 100% of states, we would anticipate that Democrats would have picked up more seats in 2018 than they actually did, right? So even though there's a wave, the states where there were partisan gerrymanders, both on the Republican and the Democratic side, made it difficult for Democrats to gain seats in a responsive manner that the electorate was suggesting. And then again, the Republicans also could have a big wave some year, and the same thing would happen. Republicans would gain seats in a commission state, but not in these gerrymandered states, to the same way. It's not always partisan. And so the governor has said, I'm a big believer in competition. When you have gerrymandering, it locks people in and they have job security. No one should have job security. As a tenured professor, I'm not sure if I agree with this part yet, but but the rest. The job security should be performance, especially in politics. When you have competition, that is what creates performance. And that's what we see in these commission states. The competition was there. There's this potential for incumbents to lose. And this year, it was a Democratic year where many Democratic newcomers beat Republican incumbents. All right, so next steps. What should we be doing, especially from the academic and more analytical side of things? This is what I just said a minute ago. So the Democrats won, but in the future, the same thing could happen with Republicans. When Republicans do well, Republican gains may actually be lower than you would guess. So what should we do next? How do we go from 33% commission states to higher? If you're thinking about this, with ballot propositions, the space for ballot propositions where you would probably have the opportunity to have more redistricting commissions is going to be in states that are more conservative. Framing the issue as it's a way for Democrats to win more seats, just like 2018, is probably not the way to go. The messaging needs to focus on independents, Republicans, Democrats, like the previous panelist said. I think a lot of testing of messages, experimenting with messages, seeing what works, in a state like Oklahoma versus Michigan would be really important. On the legal side, I tried to keep my measures in this presentation simple. The simpler the measures for partisan gerrymandering, the better when it comes to reaching Chief Justice John Roberts, right? He called what I think are excellent measures developed by academics and experts, sociological gobbledygook, but the simpler and the better and the more straightforward of a standard that could be developed is ideal for the legal side. And so the Fair Maps Incubator on the academic side and the analytical side is going to be encouraging more research in this area, trying to develop ways to think about what messages work best for Republicans, Democrats, Independents who are interested in redistricting reform, and then also evaluating partisan gerrymandering standards. And thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak.